warm welcome to the Global Sports Channel today to Joanne Peters. Joanne, how are you?
Oh, please, Mark, call me Joey or Joe. Joanne is something that I feel like I'm getting in trouble off my parents. But it is great to be here. Great to meet you, and already obviously have a few chats with you, and to do this in a formal setting and be on the beginning of your adventure as well. Such a privilege, and yeah, really looking forward to this chat.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's a very nice introduction from you. Now tell all my listeners and viewers around the world, whereabouts are you based today? Where are you talking to us from?
I'm in my lovely home in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. Actually, Belmont is the suburb.
Belmont, okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's a little hidden gem. Don't tell anybody about it. It's one of those ones where I've got, down the end of one road is the big Lake Macquarie.
Yep.
Down the other end is a lovely rainforest where you can ride through it, called the Fernley Track, and then beyond that is sand hills to the beach. So I am a water girl, so love water, and I just feel very lucky to be owning my home here.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to my sailboat. I'm sitting on a rising tide at the moment, and we have no wind right now, which is fantastic. We've had a really harsh weekend up here, but if you're a water person, then come out sailing with me one day. I'd love to have you on board the boat.
Thank you. I do actually get seasick, which is kind of the opposite of being a water person, isn't it? But I do love surfing as well, so I'll just have to do it more often to get used to it, Mark. So I'll have to come up a few times. Good
idea. And I tell you what, Joe, I'll give you a remedy for seasickness, okay? And then it'll put you out of your misery and you won't have to go through that anymore. And I'm sure there's tons of people watching and listening today who get seasick as well. So I'll help you all out for free. All you've got to do is get yourself one of those little ear bugs that you put into your ears when you want to go to sleep and not be distracted by anybody. Just get one of them, put it in your left ear, and you will not be seasick ever again. There you go.
Well, I am a lefty, so I'll remember that.
So
there
do that.
Thanks for the tip.
Yep. So it's all about seasickness is all about the equilibrium and making sure that the inner ear is taken care of. And by putting, and don't ask me how it does it, but it does work. 100%. I've had 100% guaranteed success with all of my friends that I've told to do this over the years. Is to put an earplug in your left ear, and you won't be seasick anymore.
Oh, thank you. My missus will be happy to hear that too, Mark, because actually we were up on the Great Barrier Reef, and we just took, the boat out to one of the reefs, and I just got off the boat, and we were snorkeling, and I was saying to my missus, "Oh, do you feel okay? Like, I don't know if I feel too good." All of a sudden, I've obviously done a projectile.
Right.
But my missus is really scared of sharks, and she's was drifting back and away, and I was like, feeling horrible, but I was like, why is she moving away from me? And yep. It was later on, she was just thinking in her head, burly in the water, getting out of here. While I was because it didn't help before on our way out, we saw a bit of a shark through the glass, didn't we? So anyway, I hope that'll save my life and probably hers.
There you go. Last time you've ever been seasick, you can look back on it as a memory now. Now, you live in a beautiful part of the world, and if you're watching and listening to the show today, Newcastle's just, about an hour north of Sydney, hour and a half?
Yeah, hour and a half up the freeway. It's close enough to get to, but far enough away from the big smoke as well.
I've got a good friend of mine who's working on a project at the Newcastle airport at the moment, and he keeps raving about Newcastle now that he's spending a lot of time down there. He says it's a great part of the world.
Yeah, like I say, Mark, don't tell anybody about this. I am on the Global Sports Channel, but no, come and visit us. It is beautiful with all the beaches, and yeah, I actually was a Sydney girl, and I wanted to get out of there and all the travel, and so I came up here about over 15 years ago, and I just can't leave. It's an awesome spot.
Brilliant. Now, we're going to talk a lot about soccer, as in football today, and life after that as well. But before we get there, I want to do what I do with every other guest on the show, and that's offer you the opportunity to dedicate your show to someone special in your life today. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today, Joe?
Oh, thank you. I'd love to dedicate it to my family. My my wife. I call her my wife. We're not actually married, but we can get married now.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely.
We don't feel like we need the piece of paper right now. So yeah, this is for Maggie,
Yep.
and all her kids. I got. It was about 10 years ago we've been together, and I moved in with her and her 5 girls. And
Wow.
And she also has a Down syndrome autistic son, Tyrese, who would like to dedicate it as well.
Yeah.
And then we ended up fostering 2 kids who were now adopted, Stephanie and Brody. So all the kids and all the family, it's certainly given me another perspective on life compared to what we're going to talk about with the professional sporting life. So, they're just the loves of my life, and just want to dedicate it to them. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful dedication. You've almost got enough to have your own footy team now.
Yeah, there's probably one that loves soccer, little Brody, or football. I don't know what to call it. What should we call it on this show, Mark?
Football? We'll call it soccer, actually, because I think that might get us out of a lot of trouble around the world in different parts of the world.
Oh, okay. No worries. Look, I'm flexible. Some people get offended if we call it soccer, because we've really tried to make it that name change in Australia to football.
Yeah.
But I'm easy. I love the game. I love all sports. So let's call it soccer then. Not many of my kids play though.
It's a really interesting conversation that though. I had an Irish footballer on the show the other week, and we were talking about this, and I had an American audience member write to me afterwards, and he said, "Stop calling it football. That's NFL. NFL is football," and he gave me a bit of a hard time about that. So we'll call it soccer today, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
We'll probably get lots of
You'll
complaints.
probably get the Europeans ringing up now, but I know from Newcastle in Australia, it's very much rugby league is the number one sport. You could probably say, although soccer has the highest participation rate, but you do feel that it's a rugby league team. The Newcastle Knights are the big team.
Yep.
So most school kids will call it soccer. So.
Well, we're going to change that after the show today, because so many people are going to listen to your story and be inspired by that. They're probably going to get their kids out there playing soccer next weekend. So let's see what we can do, yeah? But let's go back in the beginning, right, when you started sports in your life. And as a little tacker, what did you like doing as far as sports goes? Were you immediately attracted to soccer, or was there other activities in your life?
All sports. Loved all sports. Grew up in a little country town called Leeton, out in the Riverina near Wagga, and all there was to do was play sport. I was very much a little tomboy. I had an older brother, 3 years older than me, and he just got me out in the backyard. He'd put the shoulder pads on me. We'd play rugby league. We played cricket, was probably our most favourite game in the backyard.
Yep.
Bowled down the little corridor towards the clothesline. The big old Hills hoist one.
Yeah.
Not what they were called, but we'd have the trampoline set up behind it as the wicket keeper.
Right.
We had all, you got to pick the certain fieldsman, and we just had a ball out in the backyard. Soccer wasn't actually something we played often. It was only really when I started playing and I joined in with my brother and his team when they were shorter player. I just filled in and loved it, and apparently just kept playing. I got put up ages with the boys because I just kept scoring goals apparently.
Right.
And then it was just something that I just kind of fell into. But I loved all sports. I played squash. I played softball. I played a little bit of tennis, but squash was more my game in the racket sports. Little athletics, and then it was when I moved to Sydney, when I started my high schooling years, that I actually got identified in the same academy actually as Harry Kuehl, if you know our greatest player Harry, and Brett Emerton. So it was like, this is what I was good at. This is what I've been selected in. I did try and play a bit of cricket then as well, but I think we'll talk about it as well. You pretty early, you're pushed into a lot of commitment with one sport and don't have a lot of time for anything else. So, but I always loved the game. Loved the friends that you made through it. Other girls that were, back then not many played with the boys, so we were kind of this, all a little bit tomboyish, if you like, and it was good to connect with girls because, it did get a little bit difficult at school when, you can imagine a girl beating all the boys. The boys don't like you for that, so I copped a lot for that. But, that gives you a little bit of a glimpse as to my childhood.
Brilliant. I've got to ask you, were you a left-hand bat at cricket when you're in the backyard?
Actually, no, I'm a lefty, but I was a right-handed batsman. But for me, it makes sense that the left hand would actually be on top and be your dominant hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So right-handed golf as well, although I've never been a good golfer.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if it was because my brother was right-handed and that's how I picked up the bat because that's how he picked it up. But yeah. Interesting.
A funny game, golf. I always say anybody that says they're a good golfer is a liar.
Actually, my dad's a keen golfer, and he's 70. I don't think he'll mind me saying, but he just the other week said he played his best game at golf at 70. So when we think that, potential has limits, we can always continue to improve, But he, good golfer. It's a tough game. A lot of respect.
It's a shocker. Absolute shocker. We won't spend too much on that one. Okay, so high school, you got into the football, and you were going to talk about how you started, I guess, getting, I don't want to say pushed down the track of football, but can you tell us how that kind of evolved for you? What was the kind of trajectory you took at school, high school?
Yeah, so high school, it was, actually I didn't go to school much, to be honest, because I started getting into all the rep teams. So through the club rep system, we used to have, they still have national championships. So we had them at under 16s, under 19s, and then opens. There was no national league. We had, a 1 week of nationals. So I was, by 13, I was in the under 16 state team. By 14, I was in the state 19s team and made the Australian team. And then by 16 or 17 was my debut for the Open Matildas. So that was my last year of high school. Wow. So I was hardly at school at all. But, it was 3 times a week that, I lived in the Sutherland Shire or at St George, actually, and then moved to Sutherland. So I was travelling out to Parklea 3 times a week with my parents, and that was an hour and a half drive out and then back again, plus your games on the weekend, travelling, in the state league, which was all over Sydney. So a lot of energy and focus was towards football or soccer, sorry. It'll come out, I'm sorry.
Either way, let's roll with it. Yeah.
Cool. And that became my life. That became, who my friends were. I was good at it. So, you get these awards, you get accolades, you feel good about yourself. And that was where I, ended up devoting the next, however long to my life, and still is a big part of my life today.
So tell us about that early trajectory, because it's really interesting to hear when people talk about being successful at a young age. And as you just shared with us, you started going through rep teams and getting higher up, representing Australia at a young age. How did that feel in terms of, did it kind of inspire you to go, right, I want to go all the way with this. I want to get to the top of the sport in women's football, soccer. Is that what you kind of had as a goal and a dream?
Yeah, I do remember in my final year of school when I made the Matildas that I had that feeling, I want to be a professional footballer. But at that time, there was only a handful of women from Australia, and only, there was a league in Japan, in Denmark that a few Australian players were at. The American league was kind of on the horizon, but there really wasn't a viable career for professional female athletes, and certainly soccer players. But I remember feeling like, this is something that I really want to do. Beforehand, I do feel like I almost fell into, the state teams, and it wasn't, I just got out and play, and then, you get selected in this or that. And it's only been recently that I've reflected on, my family life and the fact that actually we were a pretty high achieving family, and, aren't necessarily aware of it, but a lot of our focus in the family was, getting, being spoken about, your achievements. And so, especially the family that I have now, it's very different with these kids and girls. It's hard to get them off the phones and technology, let alone, out and motivated, to go at a high level at something. So it's made me realize, wow, this, it wasn't normal how I was so focused and so driven. Often say I had the same drive that I had in the backyard with my brother that I had at the World Cup. I just wanted to win, and I just wanted to be the best at everything. It didn't matter what it was. And if I didn't end up being the best at it pretty quickly, then no, I'm not going to do that. I'm on to the next thing. And that was pretty much the case with soccer. I was always one of the best.
We live in a pretty sports crazy culture here in Australia. So at that time when you were on that trajectory, were there idols within sport in Australia that you kind of looked up to and got inspiration from? Or did a lot of that come from, as you say, within the family unit at that time?
It's interesting because, me and my brother, we watch all the cricket on TV. And especially during the holidays, I remember we'd watch it on TV, and then at the lunch break, Steve would go like this to me, like he was doing a little off-cutter, and it'd be the sign of let's go out and play. And so, I grew up watching the Australian cricket team, and I absolutely loved them. I loved Ian Healy, the wicketkeeper. I thought he was amazing. Yeah. I loved, because we played rugby league, or that was my brother's favourite sport. So we watched rugby league, and we loved the Canberra Raiders with Laurie Daly and Ricky Stewart. And
Mal Meninga.
So it was Mal Meninga, that's right, Big Mal. Yeah. And Brett Mullins at fullback, just running length of the field. Yeah. So it was more those male-dominated sports that I looked up to, but I also thought, I could do that. There was probably no gender difference for me. Yep. Until I moved to Sydney and actually realised that, hang on, there's girls' sport here, and hang on, we're treated a lot differently. I'm not sure if I like this, but this is how it is. But I think in Australia, it's definitely heroes. When I started playing women's football, not many people would know, but, there's Anissa Tan was probably the best in the country, and she was a big name, and she was actually the first female player to reach 100 caps for Australia. She was around the game. And there were a lot of the older players that were really inspiring. Julie Murray, even Moya Dodd, who's now gone on to, work for FIFA and is doing an amazing job. Yep. She was actually in my first open women's team, and I was playing next to her in midfield. It's just wonderful to think back and go, wow, there were a lot of women that came before me that really inspired me. But other than that, it was mainly the major sports here in Australia and the male-dominated sports scene.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's a huge focus of ours here at the Global Sports Channel, is to promote women's sports more across the world, because we know and we believe that there's such a lack of coverage when it comes to women's sports. Let's talk about those days when you did move to Sydney and you kind of recognised it to start off with. How frustrating was it to be involved in women's sport that wasn't getting the recognition that it deserved amongst all the blokes out there?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it was what it was. That's how the way it was. So you very quickly accept, don't we, in culture. I'm looking into cultures a lot, and we too often accept what we're given. That's just the way it is. But obviously, if you're trying to change that, it becomes a long journey. to be able to bring change. It's wonderful to see how far it's come since then. I mean, I remember going to the park opposite my house on Saturdays, taking raffle tickets around with my mum and saying, would you guys like to buy a raffle ticket for my soccer trip to Darwin? When I was trying to raise money to go to nationals. And it's just something that I did, and I'm kind of glad that I almost had that, because you really appreciate what you have, and I feel like, it's an interesting discussion now. This whole professionalising, especially women's sport now, is heading in that direction, which I kind of go, oh, we just miss out on a little bit of the honesty and the appreciation that comes when you actually don't get much money for playing sport. Which, some might say that should be where it stays. Sport should be a recreational thing. But life's very different now, isn't it? Everything's professionalised, and it's nice to see girls get the opportunities that they did. But, yeah, certainly I had to sell raffle tickets. I was on Centrelink payments for a long time because it was very difficult to get a job that helped me train as much as I wanted to, and take time off.
Yep.
I also remember scrubbing toilets one time, because cleaning was one of the jobs I did that was, an easy job to get, because not many people wanted to obviously do that. But I remember scrubbing toilets and listening to, I think it was a radio station at the time, who was interviewing Harry Kuehl.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned Harry Kuehl, that I was in the same academy as him, and I obviously followed him and followed a couple of those guys' careers. And it was a radio interview, and he was talking about all the different cars he owned, the Ferraris, the Bentley, I think, was his favourite car, and how he'd had like just a full massive garage full of cars. And I just remember going, oh man, if only I was a bloke. I don't know if I would have got to as far as I would have got to if I was a boy, but certainly it would have been nice to have the opportunity to actually make a proper living, to actually get recognised, because it was something that I gave my whole life to, but didn't feel like I ever got recognised, that it was almost worthy to give my life to it. So there's a lot of conflicts back then. I always wanted to be grateful for playing for Australia, because, like I mentioned to you, the heroes that went before me, they had to pay to play for Australia. Well, I was lucky when I first came into the Matildas, 96, 97. I always get it mixed up. 96.
Yeah, 96.
That was one of the first times that we actually started to get paid to play, because we got the Sydney Olympic funding.
Yep.
And I remember getting my first check of $166 for the month.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So you can kind of see in perspective, what we accept, what we can be grateful for, and perhaps, what we can continue to strive for to make everything better.
You raised so many amazing points that we could spend the whole show just talking about, because I think that there's a whole can of worms there when it comes to money in sport and the good aspects of it, but also the negative aspects. And I think you talked about the hunger was what I heard, the hunger of wanting to really truly play for your country, the hunger really to get out there and do the hard yards and raising money, knocking on doors. There's something you can't replace with that. And I think we live in an entitlement culture today where maybe some of these professional sports people get it a little bit too easy, right?
Yeah, I would like to discuss this further, Mark, because it's something that, again, there's two sides to everything, isn't there? So, I think age comes into it. The earlier that these guys get big contracts, that the amount of money, it'd be like, can we actually have a bit of a ceiling of, rather than it going into the millions? Does it really have to go into the millions? I mean, but that's hard to say, well, what's enough? What's not enough to live off? I've been used to living off breadcrumbs my whole life, and perhaps that's not a good thing either, because you start obviously, it might be a good thing. You just live amongst your means, don't you? And I definitely think there's way too much discrepancy. and gap between, who gets what. Perhaps that's the injustice that we need to bring together, is that, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, let's bring down the big dollars, and let's bring up some of these, these dreams that, every kid has. And now we're even seeing the cost of grassroots sport going through the roof. That kids aren't even getting the chance to actually play, let alone go on and think, actually, I wouldn't mind really giving this my focus and my all to be a career. There's a lot of points there, but I mean, for me, I'm starting to think, I just really wish there would be an age limit on even professional sport. That, that we it's not for kids. It's an adult, being a professional in whatever domain, it's an adult concept, It takes a lot of time to develop, and I feel like we just need to protect childhoods a lot more, and leave the professional careers for the adults, and then kids can actually make a conscious, and cognitive choice as to what they want to do. I know I was, like I said, I just fell into it. And then at 17, I was making the Matildas. So, this is my life. I'm going to go for it. There was no sense of, well, this is going to be the cost, Joey. You're not going to have much of a life. You're going to be going from airport to hotel room to training field to being told what to eat, dress, wear, do. We often talk about the glory and we only see the glory on the field. But perhaps what you're doing, that's why I like what you're doing, Mark, because it's off the field that we need to give a much clearer perspective to kids and to parents that have dreams of their kids being the next best thing. Actually, it's not necessarily all what it's cracked up to be. You do have to sacrifice a lot of your life, and perhaps that's something we need to leave for adults to make that choice for themselves, not just kids falling into it because they're talented.
Extremely well spoken, and I think a lot of the responsibility, particularly in those formative years, comes back to the parental guidance, and we see it so many times. You and I have probably both experienced it, where you get told one weekend, okay, choose between that sport and that sport, that's going to be your thing, and I'm going to take you to training every weekend to focus on that sport. That happened to me. It happened to so many people around the world that I know. And before they were kind of 14 or 15, they were already channeled down this particular path. We've seen it so many times where young people who have turned professional at a young age, their lives have gone off the rails to a large extent, right? And I don't want to point out too many names here, but we see the familiar ones that we see all the time on television who are really struggling with either that celebrity status, if you want to call it that, or that whole professional image that associated with them in their world of sport. What do you think we can do as a society to change that?
This is where we get into the deep stuff, Mark. Yeah. And look, I've had many conversations with girls that were in the Matildas, and now that I'm starting to speak out about, actually, there's the other side of it. It's we need to protect kids more from this sense of professionalism and all these adult concepts of sacrifice, commitment. It's very, we're pushing kids so soon, so quickly. We're focusing so much on performance and results in sport. And they're like, well, Joey, I loved it. I had a great opportunity as a kid. And I can see that from my side as well. There was the good of it. Yeah, you got to travel. You got to play the game you love every day. You got to connect. But there's this whole other side of life that I feel like we are the kids are missing out on. And, you ask, what can we do? And it would need a huge change. But, from both ends, I feel like from the top, something like the government funding, right, goes to, sports that win gold medals. Like, that's valuing performance, isn't it? What about valuing participation? And actually, I think James Johnson from the FFA did come out and question, why is funding based off performance as opposed to, the needs of people? So, because obviously he was saying from a football perspective that it's the number one participate in sport. So surely the funding should go to, where it's needed, which makes sense. But again, I mean, if you look deeper into the organisations, such as FFA, they're looking at money first. They're looking at as a commercialisation. They're looking at their competitions as a product. They're looking at, and I just feel like if we can just get away from this sense of performance and actually look at participation, about people's health and well-being, about what are the social and healthy benefits of sport. You think of making friends. You think of that self-confidence. You think of self-regulation and actually dealing with, that what are my capabilities? It's being challenged, but there's also great enjoyment in the competencies. I've been enjoying looking into self-determination theory, which is a motivational theory to how do we, engage kids, or how do you engage someone and motivate someone? Well, these guys, Detchi and Ryan, came up with this self-determination theory, which said if we can satisfy the three basic human psychological needs: autonomy, that sense of ownership for something, the sense of relatedness, purpose or relationship, and the sense of competencies, feeling good about something. And if you think of those three things, if you think of something you're passionate about, for me, football or sport, I'm choosing to do that, and that can even be grey area in itself if you choose it or if you're pushed into it, like you say.
Yep.
Is it relatable? Have I got that sense of purpose? Have I got the friends? Am I getting better at it? Then, I love it. So what we do in sport, I feel like, is we push the competencies element. We want to improve players. They need to be the best they can be. Or in life in general, it's all about performance. What about this sense of autonomy? What about the sense of relatedness and friends? If I talk to other people that are in sport, it's usually about, if they want to play with their friends, go over there to the social league. That's different to the kids that really want to take it seriously and competitive. Let's look at autonomy.
Yep.
The kids, why are kids getting on electronics? Why does my boy want to sit on the iPad rather than go out and play?
Yep.
Because he's got that sense of autonomy. He's owning what he does here.
Yep.
And so I think we need to actually stop looking at sport and even other things like school I look at as well. Stop looking at from a performance, results, outcome, tick boxes perspective, and let's look at it from an individual. How can we actually engage more people in sport? Let's give them more autonomy. Let's give them the choice of what team they want to be in. Let's give them this sense of relatedness and play with friends. You can choose your own team. Let's give them this sense of competencies, not by measuring them through a tick box of you can pass good or not, but how do you feel when you play the game? And tapping into more of this psychological and emotional feeling, which is very difficult to measure. And perhaps that's why we look at physical, they look like, they're scoring goals, they're the best player, because we can measure that. This is where I'm heading to, Mark, but as society, it seems like we're going more of you talk about trajectories, it seems like we're going further into a performance and outcome, results-based judgment, measuring. We want to measure kids when they come out of the womb now. We're going the opposite direction as opposed to coming back to the individual, engaging them, having them be happy and healthy people.
Yeah, brilliant. There's so much good stuff there, and one of the many reasons why I was so excited to talk to you today was that you've had that international experience as well, because your career took you around the world, and if I remember right, you were the first Australian women professional player to play in Brazil. In South America, you were the first one. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that we know of.
That we know of.
That we put it out there. I'm kind of wondering. Surely there's someone else that has done that. I think futsal was also big for women.
Yep.
I think there could be a female futsal player that went over there. But yeah, look, that was again a lucky thing that I got to go there through my contacts in playing in America.
Yeah, right.
I then got to go down to Brazil, and that was one of my favourite football experience because it wasn't about the achievements. It was about the experience. It was about the life experience, experiencing another culture, really experiencing a culture that is passionate about football, about relationships. You know, I couldn't speak one word of Portuguese.
Yeah.
And there was only probably one or two girls that knew a little bit of broken English. So I was living with this team of girls and we were having to communicate, which is the beautiful thing about sport. You automatically have this connection when you play a game, when you're a teammate, and you don't have to use verbal communication. But it was just, it was precious because of that, because it wasn't about the measurements, about the performance as much as it was about living with these girls who didn't have anything. I mean, I could say that I was living as a professional footballer in Brazil, and I was mixing with the guys that were, you know, Robinho was he was only 17 at the time. He went on to play for Brazil and Real Madrid. And I got to know him as a 17-year-old, and you know, they were living the high life then. But us as girls, we were, you know, struggling. Actually, we had donations from a school, I later found out, was where we got the food from. And, you know, that's the stuff that I want to encourage people the stories that need to be told. It's about the experience, life experience, which as a professional, I like I said, I was going from training session to training session. You had to be told by the coach what to do, be told by a lot of people what to do, and you lost that sense of autonomy, and relatedness became wrapped up in the sport and in your performance as opposed to who you are. So no wonder that, you know, people struggle with mental illness, and, you know, as a young person, you don't even know who you are yet. You're still growing physically, let alone emotionally and psychologically, that we're throwing them into this lifestyle. And it's, you know, there's plenty of both sides, I guess, positives, but a lot of negatives that ain't getting talked about.
Now, you had stints in, I think it was New York Power and Charlotte Eagles, and then you went down to Brazil. How was the comparison between the game itself in those countries that you experienced and also the culture that you talk about? Was it vastly different to Australia? Did you really have to readjust in terms of your whole life?
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark, because at that time, it was only, you know, USA was booming because they'd had the Women's World Cup in '99, which was like probably still one of the biggest sporting events they've ever had. But it really, you know, projected women's sport and women's soccer. That out of that came their professional league, and that was probably one of the only truly professional leagues. And I went from Australia, which wasn't professional at all, and it's still pretty amateur here, 20 years on in the W League. But I went to the Charlotte Eagles, which was their top amateur competition.
Right.
And I fit in. I fitted in really well there. I was, you know, felt very confident as a player. You know, physically, I could keep up with them because it was a very physical game over there. And, you know, I played really, really well. Then the following year I got, you know, selected into this professional league as New York Power, playing next to, you know, Christy Rampone, or Christy Pierce at the time, who went on to be one of the all-time greats of the US national team.
Yep.
But that was probably the first taste of going from amateur straight to professional contracts. You're competing against your teammate for a place. And I really felt that difference. You know, the amateur league, you know, you're there and you do have that sense of more relational with your team. You're there because of the love of it. You're there to share those experiences with your teammates. Going to a professional league was, you're on your own here. It was very, very different. And I, looking back now, I feel fortunate that I can now see the vast difference between going from amateur to professional. And professional, there's a lot not to like about it.
Yeah.
Just in a health and well-being sense.
Yeah.
You know, it was a great challenge for me. Personally, I feel like I did struggle in that environment. And, you know, struggling's good. You know, challenge is good. Experiencing something new is good. But, you know, in the perspective, from a life perspective, I can't, you know, I'm just not seeing what's really beneficial about a professional sporting lifestyle, which was just literally all, you know, you're so self-focused on making yourself the best you can be, but just means eat, sleep, and train. It really is this tiny bubble that you lived in, but the professional career is elevated so much to the pinnacle of a career is, you know, in any domain. We hold it so highly in society that, you know, it becomes this amazing dream to live. But I'm telling you, it's not. There's a lot to miss out on. And since retiring, I've found that I've missed out on a whole lot of life skills, you know, from being domestic to paying bills to, you know, there's too many, unfortunately.
Let's talk about it, because some people listening right now would say, well, hang on, let's play devil's advocate here. There might be someone out there listening who's a corporate person or runs a business, and they say, well, hang on, every waking moment of my day, I'm dedicated to my job. I work 100 hours a week. I never see my family. I'm completely taken away from it. I've got to travel the world with my job. People would be saying that as well. So do you think as a society we've got the whole thing wrong? It's not just in professional sport, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think sport is probably a great example of our society and what we're upholding as valuable, this professional lifestyle. But yeah, we're working longer. School system, we're throwing kids straight into structure, and this is being told what to do, taking their autonomy. We're valuing results over health and well-being. Yeah, it's and some people are 24/7, especially in sport. 24/7, absolutely love it. But yeah, if you look at the other side of thing, you know, we could talk about balance. Yeah, too much of a good thing ain't a good thing. You know, and look, we're not perfect. I'm not saying that you always have to be happy and, you know, everything's going to be amazing. But I think that value is in balance. It's too often accepted. It's really accepted. Oh, you work 70 hours a week. Oh, wow. You know, you're amazingly committed, and oh, you earn that much money. Oh, wow. But you know, how are your relationships? And perhaps they have, you know, it's no wonder that people have relationships in their work. And a lot of people are happy with that. You know, that's okay. Actually, I'm not sure a lot of people would be happy. I would probably say, and in sport, you know, we say it's the 1% that go on to be professionals. Yeah. It's probably would it be the 1% that are happy in doing something just 24/7 and don't actually have a balance of family life or, you know, just relaxing, their health? I don't know. It really is each for their own, but I feel like we're missing out on what is actually, I feel like, the majority of careers or of life. Yeah, we're missing out because what we are valuing or what is put in the limelight is this 1% of, you know, being the best, sacrificing everything to, you know, being committed, working as hard as you can. You know, I'm like, let's have some balance here. What happened to quality over quantity? Oh, well, you want both. You want quality and quantity. Well, actually, I don't want quantity. I want to do as least as possible to have a meaningful experience.
Yep. Yeah, but to be able to go deeper in it. Now, you had an amazing career as a professional player. You played for your country over 100 times. You were Australian Women's Footballer of the Year in 2009. All these amazing accolades. But was there much thought given during that time to what you were going to do in the next part of your life? What was going to be life after soccer, football for you? Had you already started making those decisions when you were playing?
I didn't. I wasn't in any kind of mindset to be open to it. I remember even at high school, one of my, because I was good at music too, actually. I played the guitar, I played the saxophone actually in school and really enjoyed it, was good at it, and got really, thank God I got good high marks in that because it saved me from really a dismal, talk about results, dismal score. But my high school music teachers would say to me, Joey, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I remember it staying with me, but I never really kind of took it on. I just was so singly focused on my football and achieving as much as I could there. And even as an amateur sport back then, and we weren't getting paid that much. Other players, I remember them, going to uni or working full time and playing for the Matildas, and I really admired them. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do it. I just felt like I just had all my energy and I wanted to have it all in football. There was no sense of that my career was ending. You really don't have any sense of time.
Yep.
And it's interesting. Look, towards the end of the career, it was good because the FFA started bringing in welfare officers and career advisors. So, asking questions, what are you going to do? Or what have you got besides your sport? And I'd be like, nothing. I don't want anything else. Mm-hmm. What do you got afterwards? Oh, nothing. I'm worrying about that then. Mm-hmm. And it was, I just wish that I had, I bumped into a Matilda recently and was trying to ask her something other than about a football, but she couldn't answer me. It was like, oh, so what else are you doing? Oh, nothing. I'm just training. Oh, so what do you think you might like? What are your other interests other than football? Like, just what are you into? Oh, nothing. It's just there's no space for thinking about this.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the answer is there, because there are people saying to you, what else do you want to do? But for some reason you have this belief that I just want to focus on my football. That's it. And so when it does happen, man, I was not ready for what happened. I fell off the face of the planet.
So let's talk about it, because you're not an orphan in that space, and there's so many professional sports people that come to the end of their career, and let's face it, the end of a career can come through different means. It can come through injury, it can come through not being selected anymore. There's a whole gambit of different reasons why people's career ends. So let's talk through your end of career. How did that come about, and what did you do afterwards?
Look, for some reason I always had about the age of 30 was when you retired. Again, thinking about it now, it's funny the things that you have in your head.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking, 30 is about the time when I probably should retire because I need to get on with the rest of my life, because sport had taken up enough and I need to get a real job. So those are the type of things that were going in my head. At 29, it was, I had continual problems, knee injuries. I mean, that's another side of sport that we accept all too often, is getting injuries. So I had a knee reconstruction when I was 17, and I just had continual problems with my knee throughout the career. And by 29, I was having it would not go away. So I almost had in my head, look, the next time that if I can't get this right and actually have a good stint under my belt, then I'm just going to have to give it away. And so I played the first W League season, coming off a year when I was named Australian Player of the Year, had a great W League season. But I still remember during that season, every time I would take a shot or I'd do a really dynamic move, I'd be clutching at my knee. I would literally be having to limp for a few steps to then get going again. I was like, hang on, this is not good. And so there was a bit of a break in the international calendar, and I just thought, you know what, it was just one of those decisions that came pretty quick, and I thought, I've got to do it. And so I was one of the fortunate ones. I got a retirement game, which not many Matildas got. There are, like, as you said, there's a lot of players that just are forced to retire due to injury or non-selection. I was fortunate that I pretty much chose to retire, yes, because of my knee, but it was just one of those things that I knew was coming. And I was fortunate that Tommy Samani at the time really valued the culture and said, Joey, you know, because Cheryl Salisbury, our greatest player, was retiring at the same time. And he was like, we're doing a retirement for Shez. We can do one for you, Joey. And I was like, nah, it's okay. But I was so grateful, actually, that it did happen.
Yeah.
It was the worst game of my life. Absolutely flogged by Italy. You know, Shez got this fairy tale one. I think they won against Italy, or at least she got to score in her game. And then the next game, I was just a mess. From the first national anthem, I was crying. And then I remember after the game, I was just crying. I'd taken off my jersey. I'd given away my boots. I was left just in my shorts and sports bra walking off.
Right.
And then I tried to do the post-match conference, and there was a guy that interviewed me who was our media officer for the Matildas for a long time, and he's like, Joey, this is your last game. And that was it. I was gone. Just bawling, and I don't think I realised what was happening.
Right.
And it was only when I got home, I had nothing to do, I was watching the next Matildas game or the next W League, and I went, the soccer world's moved on without me. I'm forgotten now. I've fallen off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't talking about me anymore.
Yeah.
That's me done. And I went, it was the start of actually a huge, deep abyss for me, a huge depression. I went straight into coaching, to be honest. My coaches did what they could for me.
Yep.
They put me straight into coaching, but I quickly just fell apart. My whole life fell apart. Didn't know who I was. But obviously from there, you have to almost hit the bottom to be able to, to bounce back. And I'm, 10 or 11 years on now.
Yep.
I find like I've found my feet. I've found, been able to reflect on what's happened, be able to appreciate what's happened, even the bad times, the good times. And I am who I am today because of all that. And I'm grateful. And it certainly was a difficult time though. And I'm not sure there's much we can do about it other than, for me, prevention is the best cure. So we need to, again, look at the value and the beliefs and the culture around professional sport. To be able to, or just sport in general, to be able to actually prevent a lot of people going down this single focus of professional sport is the bee's knees and that's all I want to do and that's okay that's all I want to do. No, it's not. It's not healthy, actually.
Joey, we've got a few minutes left to talk about the initiative that you're involved in now. I love this initiative and I'd like to give you some airtime to explain it to our audience because there's two angles of this. I want you to explain what you're doing and I want you to explain how people can help you out because I want to try and get an army of people behind this and to try and help you out with what you're doing because it's a fantastic thing. So tell us what you're doing now.
I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, it's a passion, interesting that it's probably come from a lot of my sporting story, the good and the bad. But yeah, gameplay learn is what I'm about. GPL, you can see here. It started as it was almost like a personal development that once I'd gotten into coaching, I'd bounced back from, my retirement and depression and was able to get a coaching job, stable job in a new school, which was an initiative, which was great because it was actually a blank slate. And it was like no one, again, that a sense of autonomy. What would you do if you could do anything with kids in a sports program? And so that started me on a journey of actually researching beyond what I had experienced because I went straight into coaching. Obviously, what would I do as a coach? What would I like as a player? What did I do? Because I was the best. So obviously what I did was the best and I'll just do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't be further from the truth. So I researched
Yeah.
and, oh my goodness. Sorry, did you get that?
No, all good.
Oh, sorry, I've just lost you.
That's all right. I can still hear you.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of Gameplay Learn. I started blogging all these interesting things that I was researching around the world beyond just sport and into learning, how we actually learn, and where's creativity gone. I prided myself on being a creative player, but found now coaching was going into, being so coach-centered. You got to listen to the coach. The coach has to know everything and tell the players how to kick a ball. And actually, what I was researching was like, actually, no, there's another side to this. And so in terms of developing players, I was looking into how you develop creativity, and it was more in the sense of free play. And we'd lost that sense of play.
Mm-hmm.
So from a development sense, I was like, okay, we're missing a lot here. And so I started to develop this philosophy and this framework, gameplay, learn, design the game, let them play, watch them learn.
Yeah, brilliant.
So it took on a different slant of coaching. It was more facilitating rather than instructing. I was facilitating, drawing out from players what was already in them, as opposed to thinking that they needed me to tell them what to do. But that's gone further now into this whole sense of culture, the sporting culture, this sense of performance. We're losing the person. You start hearing about, people are talking about a holistic approach. People are talking about person-centered or individual focus. But I haven't seen much come to life other than connecting with people around the world. People like Mark O'Sullivan.
Yep.
There's Stuart Armstrong, if you look them up. Salisbury Rovers has created this club outside the culture that is really driven by the kids. And it's like, well, actually, it's a simple concept to ask the kids, ask the players, what would you like to do? Rather than saying, you need all these rules and regulations, you need to sit on the bench, I'm going to select you or not. And rather than it being about the coach and about the organisation, I wanted to help it be about the kids, about the participants. What would you like to do? And then you start finding out what they would like to do, and that's play a game. So I got rid of the drills, and then I found that it's more than just about the scoreline. Actually, they just want to play one big game, or they want to change the rules. Can we? I'd love to play handball. Can we play handball in football? And it's almost like the biggest no-no.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, let's play handball. And then another player would get frustrated. No, we can't play handball. Okay, so what should we do then? Okay, well, if you call out handball, you have to put it down. And so we'd have these kids picking the ball up, starting to bounce the ball. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of multi-sport benefits now. Kids
Absolutely.
wanting coordination, hand and eye, and basketball. And
Yeah.
And so Gameplay Learn is evolving. It really is this sense of it's the heart of it is play. The heart of it is coming back to the basics of what we've perhaps lost in sport, is the genuine pure joy and connection and social and self enjoyment. And from that, if you have the passion and the want to go and be as best that you can be, well, actually, we're finding some pretty exciting, creative players and skillful players come because of this sense of autonomy and they've got this freedom, which, unfortunately in other arenas, it's not just sport, it's school, it's work. We're being very confined and our potential is perhaps being limited. So that's, that gives you perhaps a sense of Gameplay Learn.
Yep.
It started as a coaching approach. Now it's almost a life philosophy.
A life philosophy, yeah. So how can people help you out, Joey? If I was to say, okay, everyone, here's Joey's email address. Send her all your ideas on how you can help out with Gameplay Learn. What do you need right now today to help you take this to the next level?
Yeah, look, well, I'm happy to give my email, please, joey@gameplaylearn.net, and I'm on all the socials, and gameplaylearn.net is the website, and it's still evolving. But I love people that want something different, can also see the futileness in what we are creating in our culture, which is this performance, measurement, pressure environment. We're putting that first over the sense of, let's have this sense of unique individual, affirming people as opposed to being critical, finding another way of doing things.
Are you targeting this to parents or to sports clubs or to schools? Where's the target for this?
Look, it's difficult because it is everyone. I have an online community that is probably more coach-based, but they have experiences in parenting. So it's more maybe the parent coach. I do have professional coaches as well that are wanting a different way of doing things. They can see the futileness in sporting culture. I do work with sporting clubs, with grassroots clubs, people that want something different, that want to engage the individual and their family first, and then see what might come of performances later.
Yeah.
But we want to capture people's passion and potential and affirm that as a person first. So, at schools, again, I have people in schools that are wanting to use this approach because it is a learning approach. It's a framework for learning. Design the game. So the game could be in corporate. The game could be, we need to get this contract.
Yep.
So let's play. Let's play with ideas. Let's play. There's no boundaries here.
Yep.
Or what are the boundaries, the challenges that we're facing, and how can we negotiate them?
Yeah.
And then that sense of watching them learn, taking a step back as the leader or the teacher or the coach, so that then we can draw out our participants' potential, because, the potential, I feel like, is, like I say, it's getting squashed as opposed to being drawn out and fulfilled.
Very, very clear. I'm going to put your contact details about you and your organisation in the show notes today so everybody can get in touch with you, and we're going to get a tsunami of interest behind you to help you with this. I'm also going to invite you back onto another show that I do, because you've got some fantastic material you can share with the audience on that. So we're going to do whatever we can here at the Global Sports Channel, Joey Peters, to help you get this initiative going and get as many people involved. Before I let you go today, the last question I have for you is, out of your amazing journey that you've shared with us today, what have been a couple of the biggest lessons you've learned about yourself as a human being and about life in general?
Wow, you're leaving the deepest question till last, Mark. What's the biggest thing I've learned is to be myself, as much as it challenges the norm. Everything from a woman having a short hair, a gay woman being okay with that, having tattoos. I offend a lot of people, but it almost helps me to be myself more. Mm-hmm. And I think when we can find self, and when we can affirm ourselves, then we have a great place to give from. And what else was it? Sorry.
Things that you learnt about yourself, which you just explained, but what have you learnt about life in general in terms of, let's talk about the professional sports world. What have you learnt about the professional sports world throughout your whole journey? If I was a young sports kid out there today starting off on a journey and wanting to be a professional sports person, what pieces of advice would you give me to follow?
I feel like I've kind of really trashed the professional sporting career, and because I just, because I'd almost say to the kid, what else do you like other than sport? Just because I know it can be all consuming, but I would just say, are you having fun? Mm. What would you do? What's your favorite game? Show me what you can do. Be creative, because, I think we've got a system that is you need to conform. Mm-hmm. You need to measure up to this standard. And I just want to wipe that clean and just say, I guess it's similar to be yourself. Go for it, but have fun.
Yep.
Enjoy it. If you win some, you lose some. You'll score goal. I always say you'll score some, you'll miss some, but it's about the experience more than about the scoreline. Enjoy it. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy that sense of getting sweaty and having a go. For me, that's what's important. Don't worry about what team you get into or whatnot. Just wherever you are, just go for it and enjoy it.
Beautiful. Great way to end up today, Joey. And I want to say this to you before I say goodbye, is I want to say to you that, like many people that have come out of the professional sports world, I believe that your greatest accomplishments are still ahead of you. And I know that with what you're about to embark on and continue doing with what your initiative's all about, you're going to change many, many people's lives. So well done to you for not only being a great Australian ambassador in the world of football, but for being a wonderful human being and following your passion as you are now. So thank you for coming on our show today.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much. It's, we don't often hear affirmations, do we? But that really does mean a lot. It's been quite deep talking about this stuff, but, to hear that the best is still yet to come, that's wonderful. It does give me hope because it's always a challenge, isn't it? But really appreciate your support, Mark, and I admire what you're doing as well. And, to think that we could, that whole sense that we are contributing hopefully to make the world a better place, to encourage someone that needs a bit of aspiration and hope. It makes it all worth it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Joey. Sometimes I just sit here after I've spoken to guests and I just go absolutely speechless over the transparency, authenticity, the absolute deep and passionate they have for what they've done in their lives and what they're doing. And Joey Peters is one of those people that have really touched my heart in terms of what she's doing, the journey she's been on, and I'd like to do everything. And I encourage you all out there today, if you've watched this episode, to do anything you can to help Joey and what she's trying to do for young people across the world with her wonderful initiative. Globalsportschannel.com, that's where you can see all of our previous episodes where I talk to sports people all across the world, past, present and legends. I've got my little boy here. This is Oscar. Come and say hello, little man. There he is. And if you haven't checked us out on social media yet, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So please like us and drop us a comment on whether you enjoyed this particular show. And on YouTube, please subscribe and join us on YouTube as well. Hit the little bell button on YouTube and you'll be notified every time that we drop a video. Well, my little man wants me to go and play with him, so I better go and do that. I wish you all a very happy, safe and prosperous week ahead, and I'll be back again soon on the Global Sports Channel with another episode. Until then, bye for now.